Uh-oh.
If I don't start on this now, I'm never gonna. Anything that doesn't require fluids. Yeah, so uh-oh is right, but that's for later. Last video was for complaining, whining, and moaning about everything that I hate about it, and my unrealistically high expectations for this project. Thankfully, this is not the last episode. This episode is for celebrating everything that's definitely about to go right. New day, new motivation. So, new motor, new me, am I right? First step is just to pull this old one out, which is easier said than done. Yes, I have done this once or twice before, but that doesn't make it much easier the second time. That just means I know most of what's going to make this difficult, because let's be honest, it's a little different every time. Like, for instance, I still don't have one of those load levelers for my hoist, so when I'm trying to take this out, you can see I'm literally slipping razor blades in between the block and the transmission case and pounding them in with a sledgehammer because I have no other way of distributing the force correctly in order to separate the two from each other. Okay, so here they are side by side. Twin turbo JDM, single turbo AVCS JDM. This one's cooked, this one might be, but it's worth the risk. This is going to be the laziest swap ever. This one I went through all sorts of trouble to USDMify as much as possible, including the oil cooler, the water pump, the up pipe, the turbo. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm probably not even going to buy new gaskets. We're going to leave the AVCS. We're going to leave it without an oil cooler. We're going to leave it without an EGT. If it works for the Japanese ones, why wouldn't it work for this one? This one will be rattling soon. Okay, we're dressing up the new motor. Pro tip, the studs, just get rid of them. So look at this. That ain't straight. That would have never gone back in if I wouldn't have checked that. Not a problem anymore. Okay, so we're almost done taking the garbage off. This bracket, trash. That bracket, trash. It's really hard to change an injector when that thing's on and you literally cannot remove it when this is in the car. Same on this side, we just deal with the jiggly harness. Almost looks like it's melted right there. We'll just not be concerned by that for the time being. Still have to figure out what to do about that. I think I threw all of mine away already. But plugged all the holes that we don't need. These just stay without a connector on them. That is about it. Your turbo up pipe connector bracket deal. Who gives a crap? Reuse the O-rings. I'm reusing these. It'll probably have a vacuum leak. All of the timing covers are cracked. It's gonna be good. The only real thing that I've noticed that is kind of not really fit, that oil line is touching the turbo housing. Really had to bend that in weird ways to get the banjo bolt to fit. It'll be fine. I have far bigger concerns about this than that rubbing around. Everything's plugged, snugged. Ooh, that's mega smushed. Maybe ignore that too. Okay, this is where we left the nightmare. Just shelves of crap. I think it's assembled-ish. I don't really remember. We got some oil. We got some coolant. I broke the cap off of this, and I ended up having to buy a new one because I just sent all of the other ones I had to the scrapyard, but then this one ended up having the same rust issue. So then I tried painting it to at least slow the rust down, and then I realized that I never cleaned it, so the paint hardly stuck, so now I'm going to spend 2 hours fixing this when I could have just done it right the first time. We'll put this back together, hope one of these seals is good. We'll throw it on the car. we'll drop the engine in and hope this thing ain't knocking, but she'll be making some noise. That is for sure. We're starting to get deeper into uncharted waters here. Like I was alluding to, things are not always as they seem. This straightforward swap was not so straightforward. Okay, last problem. We need a stud somewhere over here. That guy, we're gonna rip him out. Spot him right there.
Gotta give credit. He interviewed YG last week, and say what you want about YG, but did not seem to be a very.
This was brand new.
Wasn't that good at talking. Well versed.
Will I have an O2 sensor fault? CEL. Upstream O2. Automatic cars don't start it until the transmission is looped to itself. Don't ask me how I know. Away we go. This is the final assembly. You can see the engine going up on the crane, which, by the way, let me just throw out there, is really always a fun moment when you know that you have hundreds and hundreds of pounds, which you may not fully appreciate unless you had it right in front of you, dangling over the front of your car with this tiny little chain that you kind of just like loosely fasten some bolts into to secure. Once again, this operation took quite a lot of finessing to even put back in. It doesn't convey over the time lapse, but it took most of an hour just in between dropping it into the engine bay and actually putting all of the bolts into the engine. Okay, after a little bit of fighting, she's in, kissing. I think I ruined the threads on this one. There's probably going to be, I don't know, like 4 bolts holding this to the transmission. We'll call it good. Discovered something else, probably a little concerning. I don't know if you can see, but this is a little more concave than it should be. We'll hope that we're not in the same situation as the transmission pan last time. You wonder why it won't shift? Because somebody dag-nab crushed the pan into the shift solenoid. Oops! I don't know, it doesn't quite look the same, but they say there's a little bit of clearance between the bottom of the pan and the pickup, so... That being said, temporary be thy name. We put a couple wires together, we stick a battery on this thing, put some oil in it, and see. Okay, so this oil filter, something I've never seen before. I think the exhaust is probably different because I've never had so much intrusion into the filter. Also, I don't even want to know where all of this dirt came from, but I don't know, you let stuff sit around for a while, this is what happens, collects dust. Rocky! Tokyo! Isn't that how it's pronounced? Tokyo! What do y'all think? Oil heater or oil cooler? Not a lot of clearance. About to sneeze. Okay, everything that's necessary is here. We have electricity, oil, air, important sensors. Who cares about the EGT sensor? Oh gosh. Fuel. Don't smell full yet. we luck out again. It tried doing the rattle. Thought it would be smart to do one more dry fire, but remember what I said about making sure that the transmission cooler is looped to itself so you don't puke ATF all over the floor. Well, guess what? Same goes for the power steering line when you have the pump connected. That's how you know it's good. I hope you can hear this, because I can definitely feel it, but we've definitely killed a coil pack, maybe a injector or a spark plug or something, because it is definitely down a hole already. Here she goes. Hear that? Cylinder 1, junk. Nice. Also found this one in the pile. The tap's broken, so same fate. Not really even sure why I was so rattled about this last time, but we're definitely doing the cylinder form cooling. If you know what I'm talking about, pull the plug out of the back of the block and we'll run that into the heater hose. You know, I'm glad I put water in it because the garage is soaked, but pop that plug out. You plumb it into one of these lines. She's not overheating this time. That is faux show. 2 hours later. That was needlessly complicated, but is good. Why am I doing this now? I don't know. I've always been really unhappy with the fitment on these. You can see at some point I like cut it out and added another one that doesn't really fit, hence all the zip ties, and it's still kind of not in there. We're gonna see if we can solve that. We got some new wheels, might do a couple other odds and ends. Shout out me. 2 self-tappers, 2 zip ties, and these were actually genuine Subaru for something that got mega hacked. Oh boy. I'll get back to you on the tires because they look awful. They might feel awful too, but we're back, baby. Whee! Yes, sir. I knew she was rusty, but I'm not sure there's any coming back from that.